The air in the New York courtroom crackled with tension. Donald Trump, once the leader of the free world, now found himself facing accusations of financial fraud. The civil trial, which had been making headlines for weeks, took an unexpected turn in October 2023. The Attorney General's office reported cases of COVID-19 among its staff, raising concerns about potential exposure within the courtroom. This revelation thrust the trial into uncharted territory, prompting questions about the health of those involved and the very course of justice itself. The allegations against Trump were substantial, centering around claims of inflated asset valuations for financial gain. The prosecution, led by the New York Attorney General, aimed to paint a picture of a systematic pattern of deception orchestrated by Trump and his organization. The trial was seen by many as a crucial test of accountability, a chance to shed light on the dealings of a man who had long evaded legal scrutiny. The stakes were undeniably high. A guilty verdict could result in significant financial penalties for Trump and further tarnish his already battered reputation. Conversely, an acquittal would be hailed as a victory by his supporters, fueling his claims of a witch hunt and potentially bolstering his political ambitions. As the trial unfolded, the world watched with bated breath, eager to see if the scales of justice would tip against a man who had seemingly spent his life defying the odds. Little did anyone know that a microscopic virus was about to throw the entire proceedings into disarray. The news spread like wildfire through the courtroom and beyond. Members of the Attorney General's staff had tested positive for COVID-19. The invisible enemy, which had already wreaked havoc across the globe, had now infiltrated the very heart of this high-profile trial. Suddenly, the focus shifted from financial fraud to the very real threat of a contagious and potentially deadly virus. The potential for exposure within the confined space of the courtroom was a cause for serious concern. Judges, jurors, lawyers, and even the defendant himself were at risk. The situation raised urgent questions about how to proceed safely and fairly, given the unprecedented circumstances. The specter of COVID-19 hanging over the trial added another layer of complexity to an already intricate case. It forced everyone involved to confront the delicate balance between upholding the principles of justice and protecting public health. The eyes of the world were watching, eager to see how this unprecedented challenge would be navigated. The COVID-19 exposure brought into sharp focus the vulnerabilities of even the most powerful individuals. It served as a stark reminder that in the face of a global pandemic, no one is truly immune. The trial, initially intended to scrutinize Trump's past actions, now became a testament to the unpredictable nature of the present. In response to the COVID-19 outbreak, Trump's legal team wasted no time in filing a motion to adjourn the trial. Citing concerns for their client's health, they argued that proceeding under the current circumstances would be reckless and irresponsible. Trump, they insisted, was particularly vulnerable to the virus due to his age and alleged pre-existing conditions. Their plea for a delay, however, was met with skepticism from some quarters. Critics, quick to point out Trump's history of downplaying the severity of the pandemic, questioned the sincerity of his concern. Some even accused him of using the COVID-19 situation as a convenient pretext to stall the trial and avoid further legal scrutiny. The timing of the outbreak, coming at a critical juncture in the trial, only fueled suspicions. Trump, already facing mounting legal pressure, now had an unexpected opportunity to hit the pause button. Whether this was a genuine concern for his well-being or a calculated legal maneuver remained a subject of intense debate. The motion to adjourn thrust the judge into the unenviable position of having to weigh competing interests. On one hand, there was a legitimate need to ensure the safety of everyone involved in the trial. On the other hand, delaying the proceedings could be perceived as giving preferential treatment to a powerful defendant and potentially undermining the pursuit of justice. In a move that surprised many, the judge presiding over the case denied Trump's request for an adjournment. Citing the need to proceed swiftly and fairly, the judge acknowledged the health concerns, but asserted that adequate safety measures could be implemented to mitigate the risk of further COVID-19 transmission within the courtroom. The decision was met with a mixed reaction. While some applauded the judge's commitment to upholding the judicial process, others expressed concern that the ruling prioritized expediency over the well-being of those involved. The decision underscored the difficult choices facing those tasked with navigating the uncharted waters of justice during a pandemic. Despite the judge's assurances, an undercurrent of anxiety continued to permeate the courtroom. The presence of COVID-19, though unseen, was palpable. Masks became ubiquitous, social distancing measures were implemented, and hand sanitizer dispensers were strategically placed throughout the courtroom, stark reminders of the invisible threat that loomed large over the proceedings. The trial, once a straightforward legal battle, had now morphed into a high-stakes game of chance. Every cough, every sneeze, every moment of close proximity carried with it the potential for infection. The pursuit of justice, it seemed, would have to navigate the treacherous terrain of a global pandemic. The potential health risks to Trump in this situation were real and significant. While the exact details of his health status remained a closely guarded secret, his age alone placed him in a higher risk category for severe COVID-19 complications. Furthermore, there were whispers, never officially confirmed, of pre-existing conditions that could potentially exacerbate the effects of the virus. These rumors, whether true or not, added another layer of concern to an already precarious situation. Despite the potential dangers, Trump, known for his defiant nature, continued to downplay the severity of the virus. He publicly dismissed concerns about his health, often flouting public health guidelines and refusing to wear a mask consistently. His dismissive attitude towards the pandemic, though consistent with his past behavior, stood in stark contrast to the very real threat he potentially faced. It raised questions about his judgment and his willingness to prioritize his own well-being, even in the face of a potentially life-threatening illness. Section 6. The stakes rise. How COVID-19 exposure could impact the trial's outcome. The COVID-19 exposure had the potential to significantly impact the trial's outcome in a myriad of ways. A severe illness, or in the worst-case scenario, the death of Trump, would undoubtedly lead to an immediate mistrial, throwing the entire legal process into disarray. Even a mild case of COVID-19 could have significant ramifications. Trump's ability to participate fully in his own defense could be compromised. His cognitive function, energy levels, and overall health could all be negatively impacted, potentially hindering his legal team's efforts. Furthermore, the constant fear of infection could create a climate of anxiety and distraction within the courtroom, impacting everyone involved, from the judge and jury to the lawyers and witnesses. This could ultimately hinder the pursuit of a fair and impartial verdict. The COVID-19 exposure had effectively transformed the trial into a high-stakes gamble, with the very course of justice hanging precariously in the balance. Section 7. Legal battles on multiple fronts, navigating the complex web of Trump's legal troubles. The COVID-19 exposure in the New York fraud trial was just one thread in the intricate tapestry of Trump's ongoing legal woes. From allegations of election interference to investigations into his business dealings, Trump found himself facing legal challenges on multiple fronts. This particular trial, however, held particular significance. It represented a direct challenge to Trump's carefully constructed image as a savvy businessman. A guilty verdict could have far-reaching consequences, potentially impacting other ongoing cases and further damaging his reputation. The COVID-19 exposure added another layer of complexity to an already convoluted legal landscape. It raised questions about the feasibility of conducting fair and timely trials in the midst of a pandemic, especially when dealing with a high-profile and polarizing figure like Trump. The outcome of this trial, regardless of the verdict, was certain to have profound implications, not only for Trump himself, but also for the future of American jurisprudence. Section 8. A nation divided, public opinion and the politicization of a pandemic. The COVID-19 exposure in Trump's trial unfolded against the backdrop of a deeply divided nation. The pandemic, once a shared global crisis, had become yet another battleground in the ongoing culture wars. Trump's own handling of the pandemic, characterized by misinformation and a disregard for public health guidelines, had further exacerbated these divisions. His supporters, many of whom viewed the trial as politically motivated, saw the COVID-19 exposure as yet another example of the deep state conspiring against their hero. They rallied around Trump, echoing his claims that the trial was a witch hunt, and that concerns about his health were overblown. His detractors, on the other hand, viewed his handling of the situation with suspicion. They saw his downplaying of the virus and his attempts to delay the trial as further evidence of his disregard for the rule of law and his willingness to exploit any situation to his advantage. The COVID-19 exposure, rather than uniting the nation in a shared sense of concern, only served to deepen existing divisions. It highlighted the extent to which the pandemic had become politicized, making it increasingly difficult to separate genuine health concerns from partisan agendas. Section 9. The Unfolding Narrative. Looking ahead to potential consequences and future developments. As the trial continued, shrouded in uncertainty and shadowed by the threat of COVID-19, the world watched and waited for the next chapter to unfold. The potential consequences of the trial, both legal and political, were far-reaching, and the COVID-19 exposure added another layer of complexity to an already unpredictable situation. A guilty verdict, while not unexpected given the evidence presented, would send shockwaves through the political landscape. It would embolden Trump's critics, potentially leading to further legal action and further tarnishing his legacy. An acquittal, on the other hand, would be a major victory for Trump and his supporters. It would fuel their claims of a witch hunt and bolster his claims of innocence. It could even pave the way for a political comeback, potentially setting the stage for another run for the presidency. Regardless of the outcome, the COVID-19 exposure would forever be etched in the annals of this historic trial. It would serve as a stark reminder of the unpredictable nature of events, and the ever-present threat of a virus that had reshaped the world as we knew it.